So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I am actually in this beautiful place that I come to often in the summer months. It's called the White Waters, and I just felt a deep call because I've went through such deep activation, acceleration, and channeling of very important things on, this whole topic of collective ascension, not just individual, but this collective journey and how this concerns all of us, the chosen ones in the family tree dynamic, and me as the one who sees this truth in a very synthesized matter as Aurea, being like at the hub, at the very synthesis, pivotal point of what God shows us for this journey, what is desired and what is the highest, most optimal result we're still aiming for at this time for the collective ascension. Although, as you know, I've in the previous video given you information how this concerns your personal journey. So I actually channeled so much information that again I came to the end of my notebook. I came here today, I thought I have my notebook with me, but unfortunately I don't. I just have the sun, the trees, beautiful location, the water. I have myself, so I actually felt called to do a shorter video, and perhaps as the week progresses, I'll be sitting with you with my notes and sharing some of that very important information and that which was channeled. But today I just want to give an overview of that presentation, how specific situations would unfold. Okay, so going back to the family tree, right? Those of you who don't know me yet, which is probably rare because most people who do watch my videos, which are still just a few people left here that are really just pushing forward and are not giving up on this illumined light intelligence versus this whole hijacking, the hologram, the astral projections and emanations of that consciousness that are being shown to us. For example, we've been talking about the Project Blue Beam, right? And how it's going to look like physically. But a lot of the people are being already astrally beamed with that information. It's not like when specific things don't unfold as people believe they should, or they've been watching channelings about that, doesn't mean they're not necessarily plugged in and already being used and utilized, okay? So everything that works against us, as you know, as I've been sharing, is a product of transgressed consciousness that is artificial intelligence that basically is the essence of the Antichrist. So in a nutshell, those of you who already know, my team, my Illumined team, working with the higher, even higher councils of Illumined Intelligence, are constantly working with these Illumined light dispensations and trying to move them through our bodies. But if the human body does not cooperate, you can want, wish, desire for whatever you want, right? But it's not going to happen. So this is the predicament or the difficulty in that choice, or the chosen timelines that we're still working with at this point, because there's beings who are already fully aligned with the ascension spiral, and before this ascension occurs for each individual, they have to be fully aligned with the Golden Christ Ascension spiral timeline. There's beings who are still in a linear timeline, which is basically a circle, and it acts, as I've often shared, as an encircled, enclosed reality, which is like a hub in which your being is entrapped in that hub. So it's basically just going round and round, and a lot of people in that timeline, they're trying to find solutions, but they always come to a dead point. They always kind of try to raise their spiral, but come back again to a point of nullification. It's almost like there is no real work there because it's a constant entanglement, and the darkness tries to push these beings who haven't done the work yet to believe in these parallels or parallel realities that are not even true. So they keep showing them, for example, that's how the devil works. Instead of giving you the gold, it gives you a counterfeit. It gives you that which is an artifact, which is you know, gold plated. So basically it would show you a false mission that just keep on going this way, just keep on going, but you're always going around circles. So these are the most difficult beings within our collective family tree to work with at this time, right? And they've been receiving the most dispensations, but for some of them, the idea of ascension is still like a utopia, like an ideal. They can't relate it fully with their physical bodies. It's like their bodies, because they haven't done the unconscious patterning work through moving through their own darkness, lowest feelings, shame, regret, and blame, you know, these are the lowest emotions that are not even physical, human emotions that the Elohim family of light first gave to the human family as a gift of God to become godlike eventually during their course of evolutionary timelines here. And because that was so prevented, right, they just keep being more encircled and more enslaved. And eventually, even the idea of spirituality, as you can see now, became like this mental notion of picking up information, but the body's stagnant and standing still, which is the difficult thing, right? So, for example, even if someone who's in that delicate timeline, right, and we call it the gray zone, and it's kind of the undecided factor zone, these beings, they might get so much information, but if they're not trusting, if they're not receiving or being the receptacle, and that receptivity is from love, it is the love of the mother, it is the womb of the most precious golden spiral through which the mother aspect of the Christ operates through, and it can be the safest, most loving, pure, benevolent form of essence trying to move through these beings. But because they've been so much suppressed and holding themselves back and just working on with ascension as a mental idea, their body literally won't be able to move forward. And you know, ascension is a physical ascension. It is a choice. They always tell me ascension is not stories that you make up in your mind. Ascension is pure facts. Physical ascension that I talk about here as a transfiguration of your physical body that eventually begins to cooperate with higher love intelligence, higher frequencies, and it's not just what New Agers call the downloads. It is literally the merging with this liquid light form essence of your higher being intelligence with aspects that you would call your human self in your 4 lower human bodies. So because ascension became such a discombobulated form, idea, and a projected reality, a lot of these beings, of course, are now confused, and even that which is purest and most loving and benevolent, they now think it's from New Age, right? Or it's just too much of a out there. They can't relate it to their current experience because imagine what my family of light wants to give you an example here. If the body has been stuck here and stagnant, right? The body has been spinning and looping in this gray zone area, right? Which is the result of the inception. It's like an incision I've talked about that the dark creates. And because of your own lack as a being of integrity, and you haven't claimed yourself as a sovereign being, because on this plane, well, everywhere across dimensions, realms and densities of your own chosen forms, you have to choose yourself as a sovereign. You have to recognize that you're a sovereign being of God. You exist independently from any dimension, realm, or density. That's your essence, right? And if you can't connect to this essence through integrity and your sovereignty, then basically the darkness can hijack you as long as they want. And they're going to toss and turn you around, because that's basically how the principle of life operates. If you're not sovereign, your choices will not look sovereign. And there's always going to be another energy, if you don't claim yourself, trying to claim themselves through you until someone is fully claimed, okay? So in this case, it's very difficult, because I explained this to someone, well, my family of light in a channeling explained this to someone in a session, that for souls, let's say, who haven't walked with integrity for a specific amount of timelines, let's say in one lifetime you do a mistake, so you're not acting out of love, right? You're acting out of fear, and you engage in actions that go against the life force that is free and sovereign, and it respects the life of another. So if you choose, let's say, a few other times you come back again and you're not choosing again, and each time the problem grows and eventually outgrows itself so much that you can't access that divine intelligence anymore, right? So what happens at a specific point in this karmic entanglement and persistence of the problem, right? The consciousness that's in this now, the dweller, can't make the shift anymore, because you become a part of the problem. So how can a consciousness that created the problem create the shift? It can't, right? The consciousness that created the problem can be the same consciousness that shifts the energy. And that's why the light intelligence of higher intelligent beings came here, especially through our work here with the Illumined team and Aurea, wanting to, making ourselves available and offering so much of these dispensations of illumined intelligence, not this distorted light that's filtered and discombobulated and basically fragmented. It's a projection and it's an illusion. So we come here because eventually souls like this, they need a lift off, they need a push, right? These beings need a push. And if they don't accept the push, it's going to be very hard for them to create any kind of push on their own. They're not going to make the moves because they don't know how. They can't even feel what it's being communicated to them, for example, and they don't even know how moving from here to there would look like. And also because they don't trust the organic intelligence of life force that always gives you what you need. So these beings, as they're showing me, they need an intermediary or a midwife. You know what a midwife is? Someone who assists the birthing process. And it's not just when a woman is giving birth. It's all of us giving birth to our true selves. And if you reach a point, if someone has reached a point when their body is too stagnant and it's lazy and it's so much in fear mode, right? And we know this, that beings like that even form relationships through what we call trauma bonding, which is they hold on tightly to things and people and ideas that make them feel safe, whether it's a spiritual reality or dogma or belief or teaching. It's a person or it's a family member or it's a location or it's a just idea about themselves that's so not coming from their true self. And eventually they would even ask themselves, but who am I really? And when you get to that point, when you even don't know who you are, you can't connect to your intelligence, you don't know your spirit name, you don't know yourself as God, you don't act with the integrity of God in your life, you don't make amends, you don't show remorse and walk through the path of redemption when it comes to your own actions, your karmic entanglement. So because a lot of these beings, right, they also created actions of non-integrity towards others, even though they perhaps at some point were manipulated. But if they're not taking accountability and responsibility, that energy in itself eventually will hold them. And it will come through infiltration of the hologram. Eventually it just grows, right? You know how cancer is. If you don't prevent it at the early stages, it keeps on growing until eventually it grows fully in your body. What I've been shown is through my own example and study cases and, just specific examples and what I've seen and people I've worked with that I've come into physical contact with as well, is certain people's bodies, like let's say one body is so far behind and the body is so much diseased, and that disease starts to spread in the body like wildfire. And someone might think, oh, it's my diet or it's the way I spend my time. But these are such minor things. Again, it's a part of the hologram that keeps you going in circles. You have to go to the core of the problem, which is when someone has lost the integrity of their true being, they've made an act, even if it was through distortion, manipulation of the dark, they've made an action that caused an incision that came into their physical beingness and through their lifetimes that caused a bleed through of the darkness. And now they're still in what a lot of these people are experiencing is hoaxes, spells, and literally what I've seen as an overweight of this energy of black magic. It's literally dark magic around these people. And it's causing literally their brain to... I've been educating myself about this a lot throughout the last years of transgression. So it causes almost like a brain fog, and a person has maybe inklings and moments when they feel something, but then they always slip back. And especially when they're with their old ties, with their karmic ties in their karmic environment. If people, when people go and travel to locations that are new, that are pure, like here in the Alps, the white goddess has told me years ago when I moved here that she's fully claimed this space, and no matter what happens physically, energetically, no one will be able to taint this space. It's kind of like a safe ground. And since I've been walking these paths, trailblazing here for years, I've literally walked all the mountains around here, and they've been telling me, because through you we've been planting the illumined seeds, and it's kind of, we've been protecting this land. And even when I ascend and I'm already gone, this will continue, the illumined legacy will continue. But what we're saying here, when someone who has never been in such a pure environment and they always existed in the same conditions, it's very hard, and eventually goes even harder and harder to make the choice towards the new. And especially because their body has shriveled up so much that it's just so much fear entrapped in the body, and this fear is what is causing the disease. And what's even behind the fear is when someone hasn't located the point of their own first fall. And a lot of beings are like, no, I've never done anything. No, I've never, like, no. But then why are you like this? Why are you stuck? Why can't you move forward? Why can't you elevate yourself? Why is this your natural state? It's our organic natural state. When we're trapped, when we're spinning, looping, cycling, are you not asking yourself the crucial question, like, what is entrapping me? What part of me is still entrapped? And how can I locate that what spirit calls the lost part of yourself. And they always tell me, in order to reconnect and find that lost part of yourself, which is literally soul retrieval, because they were fragments, and because of these fragments, your pure, unfiltered, crystalline energy that is literally your own Christo self or your own Christ self can come through. And how will then you feel things and feel guidance? You can't. People think it will come mentally. Oh, if I'm just still enough and just meditating enough, eventually I'll hear it. And I've heard people say, oh, I was already in this state and in this energy, I just need to go back. No, my dears, there is no going back. That's another inception. There is no you that was there. That was an experience, and maybe you had a pierce through the layers eventually, and you felt it for a while. But the problem is the body that hasn't fully walked into their own claimed sovereignty and integrity, the body can be in this indefinite constant channeling of this. The body can become an ascended masterful body. That's the problem, okay? So you might have an inkling, a feel, like a pierce through the veils of illusion here and there, but usually people fall back again rather fast because they don't have a permanent steady base of anchoredness into this illumined experience. And even with beings who are offered assistance but often deny and deflect, is because they were so traumatized and traumatizing themselves and literally killing their own body. That's how I see it. That's how they're showing me. So they've been showing me like dark gates closing on some of these beings, because it's like your body has to walk through the gateway of ascension and start ascending. I'm not saying that these beings would ascend in this lifetime. Some of them would need much more lifetimes, and I'll be explaining to you this in the further videos to follow, how that would look. But they would at least get out of this matrix, this hologram, this encyclement, and this is what we've been doing. We've been trying to align these beings back to their spiral. But a lot of them were really questioning and doubting and just not being synchronized, because their body was still, the body is still in this dark magic. The body still has layers and layers of that, and it doesn't just happen overnight. So in order to reconnect with that lost part or lost fragment of the self, that is the crucial one for the experience of who you are as a being, and I've already explained that for beings who I work with, the ones that are part of the angelic family of the tree, illumined tree of life, and they've gone through different realms and they've had initiations through the dark, but they eventually now have to remember that these were just experiences. These were initiations that they've chosen to grow and evolve within the illumined family tree. But that means they're going to have to eventually remember. And the reason they can't remember, they're always stuck with this illusion, is because they have this dark magic around them. Because eventually in this gray zone, something that was happening or something that occurred for them was a crucial key moment through which the bleed through of the dark intelligence started coming through. And it has to be therefore not denied, and people trying to, through fear, run away from it, because there's a huge veil of fear that's encoded in that black magic space to prevent you from even taking one step forward. And just recently I had to, for example, tell someone, because they were telling me, well, I can see this, I can see this, I can feel it even if you give me this guidance. And that's the point. You're not going to be seeing it. You're never going to be feeling it from this space where you're now shackled and closed and trying to find your own way out. There is no your way out. But eventually these beings would have to start embracing the assistance that's already been created. The assistance is already laid out there in the open. It's out there. All the codes, all the seeds have been planted. But for your body to shift, you would have to make these steps. For beings, I was shown, that won't make the shift, and this transition would just be too hard. For example, their body is already too diseased, too sick, and it's starting within, right? The body has physiology that just the light can override. If the light can come in, right? You believe, oh, I'm going to get it through meditation. No, everything. For example, someone said to me, well, the problem is the unexpressed core sexual energy. But what is sexual energy at the purest, finest form? It is creative energy. And you can't access pure, godly, divine, creative energy or life force intelligence that's illumined in its nature, that always knows where to go. It's a spiral. It's mother's love. When you block from this love, when you can't see, when you're in illusion, when you have dark magic around you, and the only thing that's preventing you from having an experience that's an ascending experience is you're stopping yourself through fear. And you're stopping and basically terrorizing your human child and constantly going back and trying to find solutions from the old, from that which is already familiar to you. And I always say to people, ascension is facts, that for most people here who have earth experiences in duality planes, that's unknown. They haven't accessed this pure energy. Remember, back in the 0-point timeline, Jesus came to plant the seeds, but that was it. We haven't had physical ascension experiences ever since. So it's such a new experience. If someone doesn't create it, if it's not there in the fields of the collective soul beings, they don't know. They don't know how to actually create this for themselves. And that's why, one of the reasons why my family has told me a while ago, I'm going to have to go first and demonstrate and show the way, because I'm already an illumined ascended being. So from this point, as they were showing me, some of these beings, if they can't make this transition while they're still physical, the only way for them to transit is they're going to have a physical death. Their body will literally begin to have more decrease in health, deterioration of health. The vitality, if you don't engage with life, because life is a constant spiral, its motion is movement, and you're constantly going in circles. Eventually, let's say a human lives up to, I don't know how many years. If you had this inception since the beginning of your birth, and your body has been feeling it, and it's now coming more and more to the surface because the energies, right, are increasing. The acceleration of our plan is here. And you might feel, well, I haven't done physically anything, but why am I getting sicker? Why can I move through this? And it's not always just a detox or a cleanse. Sometimes it's an actual illness that dwells in the body. Because if the body has been so squeezed out of life force that it can't produce its own life force, it's literally being cut off from life, then how can you engage with acceleration, upliftment, elevation of your physical body, and eventually transfigure it through ascension? No, that's why most people won't ascend physically in this lifetime. But we will demonstrate that. The Illumined family is always to demonstrate. But that first choice point from walking from the encirclement, from the hologram, has to be made now. Like they said, it's now or never. That's a very tricky part now, because a lot of these beings think, well, I still have time, I still have time. I told you that the 3D condition on this planet, because this planet was chosen to, I'm going to tell you the bigger story here in the next video, because I'm going to have my notes with me, but this planet was chosen for the intersection of these two timelines, right? The organic and the AI. And it will have to play out as God wants it for the lessons of the dark that they have to see as their own mirrors. And I'm going to explain this in the next video because I got so much information. But everything in this plan has been laid out so perfectly. And those of us who are workers of God, I'm not just a divine prophet. I'm not just a seer. I'm everything. I'm literally an illumined being who walks alongside God, and everything God shows me, I come. And sometimes I have to tell people difficult messages that they don't want to hear, or it's a difficult work. But that's what the God reality, the self-realized reality is. Get off your butt and start doing the work, and stop relating to this fear and thinking that's you, because it's not. And every time you would feel this fall back to this old energy, and you're always trying to see yourself wanting to move back, that's an inception. You have to keep on moving forward. That's the only way. There is no spiral that goes back. That's not God. That's not godly nature. The only thing that goes back, right, is circle. You go back and you start and go back around. And people who find themselves always at the same point, like always before the same decision that they never actually end up making, that's a hologram. That's a hollow reality, because you're literally plugged into the nature of what the black hole is. I explained this. The black hole is the most devoid of life energy you can imagine, and the darkness wants to plug beings into that, so they lose their own God sovereignty, claiming themselves as the integral sovereign being. Not just a soul, but an angelic being that is on this highest level. We all come from what is called the firstborn of God, the Elohim, who begin the life forms and spreading them around in this vast, beautiful creation. But everyone on this reality, we have to see what this reality is. If you're not waking up to what this is, that's an enclosed and cycle looping, that's a hologram, how can you plug into the organic timeline and reality, right? And the third realm, right, they said, is the souls that beings that already chosen the dark. But why was our work with these in the gray zone again so important? As I've often explained, if these beings, if they had you have to know everything is in cycles. In divine nature of God, everything is planned through cycles. So if, it's like a barrier, right? It's a barrier between this reality and what can be the next unfolding. So if someone had this many lifetimes, right, that the darkness eventually can penetrate through and claim them fully, they're not going to be able to have conscious lifetimes anymore. They're going to have lifetimes that will be fully unconscious, and they won't be choosing them and these lifetimes through their own sovereign integrity self, the integral sovereign being. And for many of these, like especially I worked with specific individual, like so long, you know, and that I don't even know how it feels to be without this energy and influence in my life. So it's been difficult. It took a toll on me. And I haven't been doing so much of my own work with Patreon and so in sharing, because I was just so much doing this, because that's what God wanted, right? And I was just, as always, a divine servant. I do what I am told and shown to do. I serve God in the higher plan within our illumined tree of life. And Aurea, as my own higher Elo himself, she's just the most amazing badass being, right? And she tells me everything from this higher vantage point perspective. So in order for these beings to not be claimed in the next lifetime fully to dark, that they would start falling into the unconscious lifetimes and spiraling towards the what is it called, like there's regressive, right? You have evolving lifetimes and progressive and regressive. So they would also themselves become a regressive being. And in order to prevent that and return the originality and restore our family illumined tree, we had to do the work with these beings, and the work was not very easy. So what we've given them, oftentimes, for example, someone would think they received the gift of liberation, but each gift of liberation looks different for each being, depending when they are on their own timeline, and how as a being in the body can receive it at this point, how much they're willing to receive it. So some people will think, well, we do the work and they don't have to do anything and everything will just turn out dandy. No, my dears, that's not how ascension looks like. Remember, again, ascension is a choice. If you don't start claiming back your own sovereign self, and you're constantly looping back to spiritual information on how to meditate and just be, it's this realm was so, even to every detail thought, like how it was to be configured to become a hindrance and a blind spot to people. Like even when someone yesterday, I watched a reading and someone said it so perfectly, because they said they always saw through this illusion of, yeah, you're always fine when you are, it's already all perfect, you're always home in your heart and blah blah. But then the person said, but that gives you like an idea, well, I don't have to do anything, it's all just there, and I don't have to go out and explore and journey and venture out and do and claim yourself. I'm not saying claim territories and other people, yourself, aspects of yourself, to rise in your divinity. And people who haven't been doing that, they were just studying and pulling out information, and they've never channeled from their true core self. Literally, they couldn't, right? They were not plugged into it. But everyone could if they only have done the work. So there's so much put in our reality that makes us not susceptible to the nature of illumined truth. There's like these distorted truths that sound something I can digest in the moment. It sounds easy. All I have to do is sit and breathe and do nothing else. So I'm still, I'm fine. Well, you can meditate all you want and you're still going to be in this space. You know, meditation is just one layer, one important step of the overall nature of the work towards your ascending and elevating being. So these beings, as I was shown that we work with, some of them, their liberation came only in a form that when they pass, when they transition, like literally when they die from this body, when they transition, if their body is too sick and not able to maintain themselves because they're just stuck and stagnant, if they don't want to make the move, they can't make the move. You know what darkness tries to do in return? It wants to keep your body here while you're fully stagnating and you can't even live a full life anymore. You can't proliferate life from your core. You can't sexually emanate, right? You're supposed to be an emanation force of life, and life returns to you, and you're just creating life from your illumined design. And I'll talk more about how creation angels, how we create everything from our womb in the beloved space in the next video. But here I just want to say, if you forget and you live in this forgetfulness, even the body, eventually your being is already aware that they need to make the plans for the next steps, because you're not accelerating here. So come on, let's go. So that transition in what we call physical death will be the only case, right, for these beings to actually have their liberation. And when they have the passing, they would meet the golden light, and they would actually see the elements through which they have to shape their next lifetimes. And these beings usually, because of our assistance, they will be able to do that. Otherwise, darkness would engulf them. That's what the gray area means. And it's not something to say, oh, I'm not feeling this. It's nothing to joke around with here. This is a serious matter. And serious matters are usually known to beings who are higher intelligences. So why would beings not trust these higher intelligences? Would they rather trust their ego? I see tons of people who rather trust the ego. But the ego keeps them stuck. They're never moving. They're always sick. They're always in the same conditions. Then why are you still trusting it? I mean, I can't get the rationality of how these people think. I can't get it because I'm an illumined being. I don't think that way. If I see haltedness, if I see stuckness, if I see any form of stagnation, which is the only fear I have, the fear of stagnation, because that means death. Remember, I've shared many times before, death, physical passing is not real death, stagnation is. So what darkness does with these beings who are consciously unaware, and they haven't done even 1% of their unconscious blockages and patterns clearing, which is literally what keeps them stuck. Darkness holds you through your patterns and blockages. Eventually, as I've said in the previous video, they become running programs in the matrix, in the hologram. And this is a serious matter. I can't be all, hey, you know, here in the video making cracking jokes, because this is a serious matter. And sometimes people don't want to hear the serious nature to things. They're thinking, oh, you know, I don't have to do anything. Well, the higher beings or the high intelligences, they'll do everything. No, they won't. For beings who will not choose at even 1%, they will stop working with them because it's a waste of time, because they're holding back others in the group and the dynamic of overall nature of our family tree. So eventually, probably they would have to return back to help them and assist them in another timeline, but definitely not here. Because what's happening now is timed in within the cycle of God, and people who think, well, I have all the time in the world and I can be lazy and do nothing and just think it will all happen automatically. No, it won't, because everything is scheduled to the detail, my dears. And because I'm a part of this Aurea, Aurea Aureus higher intelligence collective, I know these things and I see them. And I know that the time is running out. So sometimes now I have to also, as a being, as Polona, act very much with this vehemence and, you know, tell certain people like, no, now's the time. You choose now or it's not going to be pretty. And it might scare someone at first, but at least it can give them another choice to choose. Because what illumined beings do, we create openings. We help others to create openings on their stickedness, right, on this linear trail, so that eventually this opening can become a new rerouting or rerouting that is a spiral, that they join the family tree that is the tree of beautiful spirals of God. And you have to know something. God sees us as spirals. God doesn't even see us as beings who have initiations through duality, polarity, missions, all this. God sees us as spirals who are fully sovereign and integral. And these spirals eventually will come back and return. But it's not always easy, right? So God, what God does, it sends its divine interventions and divine servants and illumined light intelligences. And we've been having this for years now here. And I'm here, and I won't be here for much longer. That's all I know. Ascension, physical ascension will have to happen. My body transfiguration is also scheduled and timed in. So as a result of that, people have to stop taking this for granted. Even people thinking I'm always going to be here, and people taking me for granted. No, these videos and me, my presence on the planet won't always be here. At a certain point, I'm also going to have to stop doing sessions because I'll have to go fully in and only focus on my body acceleration and transfiguration. So things are as they are, and I'll be updating you in the times to come, but it's not a lot of time. I don't see a lot of time left. Everything is cycled, and it's not out of fear like, oh, this is definitely not coming from the truth, because the nature of this reality is infinite. Yeah, the nature of reality is infinite. What does that also mean? You can infinitely choose to stay in this hologram, and you can be part of artificial intelligence timeline. You have to know something. Most people that live here that you see every day, they've chosen the AI timeline. Most of them have. Checkpoint. But those of you who are either slightly inclined and still here and maybe watching and still haven't done your entire work, but you have what it takes, you still have a push, you have a nudging voice that keeps telling you, trust, come on, keep going forward, keep accelerating, keep ascending, don't stop. You're the ones who made it out. You're the ones who will make it out. You're the lucky ones. You're the chosen ones, and only a few. I've been shown this picture years ago when the Divine Mother came, and I've revealed this dream to you. It was a prophetic dream many times in the videos because it is that important, and it is so important for me and many who are here watching. Only these few, the Mother said. For some it was easier, for some it is harder. And most of them I don't see ascending like in this lifetime, like physical body transfiguration. But they would get, if they at least choose to, if nothing else, through their passing, to choose to walk towards the golden light. and then shape their lifetimes. They would configure their next lifetime as an evolving conscious lifetime. And this is what Aurea literally told me recently. They said the work we do is not always to get someone to accelerate and expand in this lifetime. Some of them would not choose, and they would have to still walk through different initiations, but the work we've done will help them then, when they pass, see the golden light, and they will start shaping their conscious lifetime, because it won't be a lifetime through which darkness moves through you and it navigates your reality completely, that you don't have any free will. Goodbye free will. Even now it is such a distorted concept, but people who will not shift from the gray zone in the next lifetime, they would be fully sucked in. That's called the soul harvesting. They would not have that anymore. They would just become a part of this AI inception and this hologram. So God has been battling this war. It's not, for God it's not a war, but it's like fight. It's just a fight for her precious children. And some people are just too stubborn to realize that this is what matters now. And that's like, everyone's a winner, baby, but everyone's also can be a loser if they really don't know and see what God is. And the first key step is love. You can and never will ascend without this love. I'll talk more about this in the next video. I'll share some of the aspects how illumined beings create corridors for ascension through their own beloved unions, illumined unions, because this love is so pure. And I've channeled a drawing this month for Patreon in which this came through, this configuration. I channel these light configurations of illumined beings, how we do this work towards acceleration and ascension. And yeah, that's that. So in the next video, we're going to go maybe more through the data as I have it in my notebook, some more insights. But this is very important, you know. It's not yet too late, but I'm shown that until this August, which is the 8-8 gateway, already last year, remember, we had an important karmic release. There's a video I have last year in the Lion's Gate on the 8-8 portal. But this year will be that, like this year will complete and culminate that final choice point. And if the soul being doesn't choose, I don't know what happens next. I haven't been given that information. I only receive as we go along. And even sometimes for me as a person, it's frustrating because they would show me, oh, this is over, that's done, enough is enough. And the next day they would say, oh, there's a new opening. Because even they don't know. They have to follow through what beings here on earth demonstrate and what they keep on choosing. But eventually, as I said, we're all running into a collective hub timeline through which all these who were chosen have to choose, unless they're going to have to be left behind. And there is no other way. Because everything in divine will has to be seen through these cycles of time and has to be respected, and only higher intelligences have an overview of an entire situation. And me here on earth as an embodier of this Christ golden illumined intelligence that's not just Christed in nature, but it's very advanced. These pulsar beings I work with, the Arcturus, Illumined Arcturus aspect, which are the Aureus beings who are amazing. The work with transgression through me was all them. It was all this advanced information that they had to pour through and through my body to create these liberation points and openings. And they're simply like hats off. They're one of the most advanced, amazing beings in what I would say this universe. But even we have to then plug into the higher council collectives that show and dispensate what to do and how life force moves next. So you have to know there's a higher ranking and higher intelligence behind every intelligence, all the way up to source. But it doesn't mean that you as a being, as a sovereign, can connect to all of these, because once you have a full illumined corridor of light open through your body, you can accelerate through that, because you now have an alignment going all the way through these points of your levels of being into your essence being, all the way up to your own source self. But when there's intersections, right, in between, as I already explained, these dark hijacking points and looping points, you can't connect. Like, as long as you try and you're just trying to do it from your effort state, like from your own human self egoic effort, it won't work, it will fail. Because this work has to be done with you letting go and trusting higher intelligences when they come and serve you and assist you, that they will get you to a point. They will give you, like we call this a boost up or a starter up campaigns, right? It's almost like that. You need enough fuel within your life force. Like, you know, when you light a match like this, you do like this. These beings that they're showing me who can't do that at this point, they don't have even enough life force or energy to do that spark of the match. So we would come and we would help them light a match, and once they do, they would start opening and having gradually this illumined rebirth and setting up the illumined body gateways again, so they can start connecting through their own guidance and own dispensations. But up till this point they can't. And literally lately I had to tell this to someone, like in a really vehement, deterministic way, and they were like, you're giving me an ultimatum. And I'm like, no, I'm giving myself the ultimatum, because this way I also will know that if they just choose to be stuck, I can't do anything, because then it's keeping me stuck. Remember, everyone is sovereign, and for me, I have a huge responsibility when it comes to the family Illumined Tree Ascension, but I don't have responsibilities towards people's free wills and their choices. That's their own responsibility. So human consciousness in the body has to start trusting, and you have to also become aware that there's specific things you can't do from the human consciousness that lived these lifetimes, people who had, and there were also, some of them were very dualistic and dark. That consciousness can make the shift. That's what we're here now to help this acceleration and elevation. But if someone doesn't trust, even our work is literally like pooping into God's face. It's like throwing, there's I think a term in the Bible, throwing pearls under swines, like before swines. And it's like, I'm not calling anyone a pig. I never would do that. For me, everyone is a divine being, even if they don't see it yet. And if they're living in this shackled ego, incepted self, and closed off from the true nature of what love is. They want purity of their essence, but they can't reach it because they're so stubborn to give themselves even a chance. And I've seen a lot of this stubbornness, and it breaks my heart, but what can I do? I also have to be neutral as a divine servant. I have to be neutral, otherwise I'm going to go crazy, because if you're looking into that too much, then you can lose yourself. Remember, a lot of beings who are starborn beings try to create these rescue missions, and they fail because they became again the part of the problem. You have to be neutral. You have to be there as a support team, a support sustenance, strong foundation if beings choose to walk the path, but not through ego, like picking and poking and yes and no and spinning and looping, and one day yes, the other day no. That's spinning, that's looping. But when you make the choice, it has to be a final one, and you have to say, even though I don't have the answers and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm choosing this blindfoldedly. And people who are so stuck in fear, they want everything laid out, how it will look like, all on the platter, and then they would choose it. My dears, it's not how God works. God wants you to be trusting of who God is. God wants you to trust your maker. Do you trust me that I've, as this beautiful essence of creatrix that is Divine Mother, that provides all the life sustenance, all the life force there is? And you don't trust me that I will show up for you every time, but you have to choose me first. That's the Mother. If you don't choose me, all that you will feel is stagnation, distortion, looping, lack of love, lack of integrity. You won't know me. You won't get to my womb. And I did a mini channeled message just on Telegram recently. That's a long journey for most beings to get from that Spirit, Holy Spirit, offering you that cup, the chalice of divine love, and from you to walk that towards the Mother, to actually see and witness the Mother yourself, her love, her purity, her essence when she moves through you, the name she gifted you with when you were first born as a being, everything. And I've already explained to you, I've been doing a lot of these Illumined rebirths, not this and I, but we as my team for beings, but I won't be doing them indefinitely. So if some of you are still called, make that call now, because eventually I will have to also stop the session work when I'm going to be given the green light to move to the next chapter. I'm somewhere in between now. I'm still finishing some gaps, but then eventually I will have to also stop doing that when they will show me. So then that's that. Then those who benefited from this will, the other ones will have to continue with the legacy that will be coming after me and my presence here and my embodiment here. But it was always meant to be, for me, they've told me years ago, my life was not an individualized life, although I do have an identity form, one body, right? They said, we work for the whole through you. And my ascension is not just my ascension, it is for all. It is a gift for all. And once it happens on that day, I know there will be nothing but joy. But until that day comes, we still have some more work to do. And it's my work, and it's our work as a family. And every while, here and there, someone would come, let's say a fanatic, and they're going to start telling me things that are so much from the mind. Like recently that happened again. Someone was just like, yeah, you're like this, I'm a contactee, I have information for you. I don't even know that person. And I was in communication with beloved Master Jesus the Christ. And Jesus said, you know, these people sometimes can be dangerous because they're so unaware, even though they believe in this matrix and hologram, they're so unaware of the force that pushes them through this. And it's actually the voice of the mind. And whenever you feel someone talking about themselves as, I'm this king and I do this, and I'm like, and you're like, just be wary, because this is power. That's not love. It's not coming from love. And someone starts telling you things, ooh, I will heal you, I will do this, I will do that, I have this, you don't have this, only I have it. Just, I can offer me as my team, all of us, through the gift of the spiral of the mother, because of what I managed to embody, and especially through the dark, because I moved through the dark without fear, fearlessly all these years. I have the gift now, I have what it takes. But I won't have it here forever, right, on the earth plane. I will keep acting in a way, but not physically when my time comes. But I'm just saying that it's not that I can heal anyone. I can't heal anyone. Everyone has to heal themselves. But what we offer is a gift of liberation, that beings start seeing where their main interjection and inception points were and how to move on from there. And how to understand that there is no ascension without love. If you don't let just true love, higher love, not codependent, attached love, addiction, obsession, desire, lust. This love is so pure, it only wants you to keep on elevating yourself. And it is also human. So if for the human that love is poetic, romantic, platonic, that's just human perceptions. But that love, at the highest point, is this essence of the mother trying to move through everyone and calling the children back. But some have heard, some haven't, and some will need more lifetimes. And in the next video, I'll tell you more how these lifetimes would be and where, because, you know, we don't want these beings to keep remaining in the hologram. So that's for the next video. I'll have to have to stop talking, not keep talking. So those of you who enjoyed this video, thank you so much. Thumbs up. And join me on Patreon. I'm going to be also sharing some of the deeper insights into this, and one a very specific example, and how beloved union is the key for ascension. So I've went through this difficult experience, actually, you know, and they've shown me, and Jesus came through and he said, only now, he said, you are now a full master, because you act only on your higher intelligent impulses. You don't wait for others. You don't like let them navigate you. Don't let them dictate to you through their ego. Now you know. He said, now you're a master of masters here. And it's difficult, you know, for a physical woman's body to be perceived as that. And I really don't care. I don't need to be perceived by another human being as a master. I know what a master means for me. It's a complete trust in your own sovereignty and the impulses of God that come as nudges of this life force, intelligence that's organic. It's seated with the love of the mother, and you act with it, even if sometimes that action is maybe giving someone a piece of difficult information that they can't digest yet, but it has to sink in somewhere, and eventually it will move them perhaps to the next stage of their own growth and evolution. But until that happens, and for each and every being that is different, I'm here until I am, and I just want to send you some beautiful mountain love, and I have to go now, use my time wisely that I have with this day, with my conscious retreat. Let's see what this day will bring and some more information, but I'll be back with a deeper video topic and with some of my notes and channelings probably next week. Enjoy, my sweet beloveds. We're in a very, very potent time now, and lots is happening. This is also very difficult for our bodies, because I feel a huge acceleration towards the 8-8 gateway. So keep on choosing consciously and wisely, and whenever you're conscious, you have to claim it. You also sometimes have to apologize to people you've done wrong. You have to make right for your wrongs. That's a part of earthedness. You know, people who are ungrounded, they think, yeah, well, it's all good, it's all perfect, you know, it all evens out eventually. No. Lifetimes are like this for specific reasons. If you don't learn how to communicate with your intelligence, and also means making amends, feeling remorse when you've done something or someone wrong, and you were never once showing them even an inkling of love when they've literally offered the world, for example, to you, like, that's how you create more karma for yourself. And I would rather, if I was a conscious being, choose to do everything as on the go. Don't keep anything for later. Don't hold for later. What common mistake for people is they kind of leave the difficult for later, always for later. You know, there's someone that always tells me, yeah, like not now, like maybe later. When is this maybe later? What if later never comes? You're just going to be stuck with the ego always. Sorry, my loves. That's not ascension. That's not choosing to elevate and move into the purity and the innocence of your inner child that just wants to be love, to receive and give it on a platter of love. So moving through the trauma, trauma bonds, karmic relationships that keep you stuck, all of that is a part of the work, and that can't be denied. So people who've been denying to face the dark, they will have to go through a quarter of the dark, at least experiencing it internally. But that will be a very difficult experience for their body. And we'll see what that happens and how that is for each individual. Like, we are overseers, they're watching every single move. They're always with choices as they're made on the go, but I know that for the highest plan, they're always going to be serving what God delivers, and they're going to do the best thing always in the right time, as we always do. So thank you for your kindness and sitting here today with me with some more difficult topics. But yeah, ascension is choice and ascension is facts. So in the next video, we'll go deeper into these facts, what they are, and I'm sending you as always so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care wherever you are, and I'll be seeing you. Bye.
Welcome into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.